Okay, we're putting 4 AI video generators against each other today, and these are backed by some pretty huge names. The goal is simple. Find out which one can actually give us that crazy realistic look without the footage turning into an AI fever dream halfway through. We're gonna push all 4 with different prompts and see how they handle motion, detail, camera movement, and those moments where the prompt gets a little more demanding. Then, at the end, I'll pick the one that came out on top, but I'm not gonna pretend my opinion is the only one that matters. You're gonna see every result too, so tell me which tool you'd put at number 1. All right, let's get into it. Before we start though, there's one thing you should know. These tools aren't completely free, so don't expect unlimited generations without paying anything. But you can still test them out with the credits they give you, and most of these platforms refresh or provide credits on a daily basis. So if you just wanna try a few prompts and get a feel for the quality, that should be enough to do some testing. And if one of them ends up being your favorite, you can always check out its subscription later. For now, we're just here to see which one can actually cook. Let's start with number 4, Vibes AI. This one comes from Meta, and I'm gonna throw 3 pretty different scenarios at it to see how well it handles speed, movement, and a little chaos. First up, I'm going with a horseback POV riding alongside a huge stampede of wild horses, with dust flying everywhere. Then we're switching things up completely. A helicopter flying through a ridiculously tight mountain canyon at high speed, with the cliffs basically flying past the camera. And for the third one, we're going underwater with an ocean-level shot where a massive great white suddenly breaches right next to the camera. Yeah, definitely not the kind of thing I'd want to experience in real life. And honestly, Vibes AI does a pretty good job across these tests. The footage looks realistic for the most part, and the motion can get surprisingly convincing when there's a lot happening in the frame. Every now and then, though, you'll catch a weird little glitch in some of the clips. Nothing that ruins every generation, but it's definitely something you notice when it happens. One thing I really like here is that it can generate 4 footage variations at once. That's super useful because instead of making one clip, checking it, regenerating, and doing that whole dance again, you get 4 options to compare right away. So even with a few random glitches here and there, Vibes AI gives us some pretty solid results to kick things off. All right, now we're moving up to number 3, Google Flow. And for this one, I wanted to really push the motion because these prompts are basically asking the AI to keep up with some seriously fast-moving scenes. First, we've got a fighter jet flying through a super narrow mountain valley at insanely low altitude, with the whole thing shown from the cockpit. Then we're jumping onto a motorcycle racing along this tiny cliffside trail, with rocks dropping way down below. And finally, we've got a snowmobile flying downhill through deep snow while a massive avalanche is chasing it from behind. So yeah, we're not exactly giving this thing an easy workload, but honestly, every single prompt generated really well. The footage stayed detailed, the movement looked smooth, and even with all that speed and action happening at once, the scenes held together surprisingly well. The fighter jet shot had that fast, aggressive feeling you'd expect. The motorcycle sequence looked intense without completely falling apart, and the avalanche scene had some really nice motion going on. I went through all 3 results, and there wasn't really a weak one in the bunch. Google Flow is definitely looking strong so far, but we've still got the next 2 tools waiting, so I'm not calling anything yet. All right, number 2 is up, and we're testing Qwen AI. So first, just open your browser, search for Qwen AI, go to the official site, and log in. Once you're in, we can get straight to the fun part. I'm starting with a helicopter flying at high speed into this massive natural tunnel inside a mountain, then bursting out above a huge valley. And wow, the quality on this one is actually really good. The scene has a lot going on, but the visuals stay clean, and the whole shot feels pretty convincing. Okay, let's not get too excited yet. For the second test, I'm switching the vibe completely. We've got a motorcycle tearing across a desert at night, with moonlight, dust trails, headlights cutting through the darkness, and even some lightning way off in the distance. And yeah, Qwen handled this one really nicely too. The lighting gives the footage a lot more depth, and the speed comes through without making the whole thing look like a blurry mess. All right, one more. This time, we're jumping into a race car cockpit and sending it around a winding mountain track with some aggressive braking and hard cornering. And again, the quality is seriously solid. The movement feels fast, the environment stays detailed, and the overall generation looks really clean. So far, Qwen is absolutely holding its own in this comparison. Let's see what the final tool can do. All right, we've made it to number 1, and this time we're testing Canva AI. I'm starting with a close-up forest encounter where a massive brown bear walks right up toward the camera. Then we're taking an ATV straight through a dense rainforest, jumping over fallen trees and blasting through rivers. And for the last one, we're going completely airborne with a fighter jet flying just a few meters above the ocean at insane speed, with the water rushing underneath the cockpit. So yeah, we're definitely making Canva work for this one. And honestly, the results are pretty impressive overall. The visuals come out sharp, the scenes have good detail, and the generation itself is noticeably quick. That speed is a big plus when you're testing a bunch of ideas, because you're not sitting there staring at a loading screen forever. But it's not perfect. Every now and then, you'll spot a small glitch in one of the clips, especially when there's a lot of movement happening at once. And there's another downside worth knowing. On the free version, you don't get audio with the generated videos. So visually, Canva AI is moving fast and giving us some really usable results. But that audio limitation is definitely something to keep in mind. Now we've seen all 4, so let's see which one actually takes the crown. And after putting all 4 through the same kind of testing, I'd give the win to Google Flow. For me, it was the most consistent across the different prompts, especially when the scenes got fast, complicated, or packed with movement. That doesn't mean the other tools were bad at all. Each one had its own strengths, and you might honestly end up picking a different winner depending on what you're trying to create. But based on everything we just tested, Flow takes the number 1 spot for me. Now I want to hear your take, because you've seen the exact same results I did. Which one looked the best to you? And which tool would you actually use for your own videos? Drop it in the comments. I'm curious to see if you guys agree with my ranking, or if I'm about to get absolutely cooked down there. And if you want to try any of the prompts or resources I used in this video, you'll find the link in the description. Anyway, that's it for this one. I'll see you in the next video.